An optimistic scenario for America. Gloom about its future is almost as old as the Republic itself, says John Prideaux. Here is an alternative. As they grew old, America's founding fathers also grew gloomy. In Fears of a Setting Sun, Dennis Rasmussen, a historian at Syracuse University, describes how Washington, Jefferson, and Hamilton wondered if the American experiment would outlast their lifetimes. This was not the narcissism of great men unwilling to understand that even immortals can be dispensable. Or rather, it was not only that. However refined the structure of government they had bequeathed the new republic, the success of the whole enterprise relied on things beyond their control. America was vulnerable to invasion. The slavery question had been postponed. The record of democratic republics was not good. Doomerism about the Republic is almost as old as the Declaration of Independence, which turns 250 in July. It is easy to imagine a scenario where some of the founders' nightmares finally become reality in 2026. In the Declaration, Jefferson charged King George III with sending swarms of officers to harass citizens, cutting off trade with the world, and preventing immigration, among other calumnies. In 2026, the charge sheet against Donald Trump could include using the power of the state to persecute his political enemies, using the office of president for personal gain, and threatening to vandalize the Constitution by running for another term. Back in 1775, it would have required imagination, mania even, to suggest that the soon-to-be independent country would grow into the greatest economic and military power the world has ever seen, abolish slavery, rescue the former colonial power in 2 world wars, and then get so bored, exhausted, complacent, or despondent that it would elect a reality TV star to Washington's old job twice. Far less imagination is needed to outline a scenario where things go surprisingly well in 2026. So, at the risk of personal and professional humiliation, here goes. The founders worried about homegrown tyranny from one of Washington's successors. They also feared disorder and invasion. Their solution was to constrain the president, but with exceptions to those constraints for use in an emergency. Unlike any president before him, Mr. Trump has made every day an emergency and governed accordingly. So imagine that, in 2026, the courts put some guardrails around the president's ability to decide when he gets to break the glass and grab an axe. One ruling declares that the president cannot deploy the National Guard of one state in another, or limits the Guard's duties to policing federal property. Another ruling constrains immigration and customs enforcement, which the president seems to consider his personal militia. By the end of 2026, the presidency looks much less imperial than it seems now. Having successfully closed the southern border to irregular migration in his first year, the president moves to phase 2 of the MAGA migration policy. Mr. Trump has sometimes talked enthusiastically about high-skilled migration, even as his government has made it harder. In his first term, he increased the number of agricultural workers who could come to America on seasonal visas. Having now fixed a seemingly impossible problem, he brokers a bipartisan deal on immigration that pairs changes to asylum law with increased high-skilled migration and more visas for guest workers. This annoys immigration restrictionists in the MAGA movement, but most Republicans in Congress and plenty of centrist Democrats who wish to diffuse an issue on which they keep losing support the president. The bill passes. Stephen Miller, the Deputy Chief of Staff, is sad. As the artificial intelligence boom continues, the administration cuts financial regulation and makes permitting easier for new energy projects and transmission lines. Generating capacity from solar energy increases. Even wind power, which the president has a thing about, benefits from higher investment and expanded capacity. Signs of an AI-driven productivity boost become discernible, vindicating the administration's hands-off approach to regulation. The white-collar jobs apocalypse is postponed. In other good economic news, Tariffs settle at a rate that is higher than before the president came to office, but some predictability returns. The Supreme Court helps here too by returning some power over tariffs to Congress. Buoyed by all of this, Republicans win a majority in the House of Representatives in the midterms. Mid-cycle gerrymandering helps, but so do the president's political achievements. The war in Gaza does not resume. Europeans take on the burden of defending Ukraine. America and China sustain their truce in the trade war. Mr. Trump has the success and adulation he has always wanted, even from some of his political foes, and feels that his work is done. The Republican presidential primary starts, and he chooses to stay out of it. Implausible? America's history has been filled with much stranger things. John Prideaux, U.S. editor, The Economist.